The Witch's Bedtime Tale. The fascination of the eerie, weird, blood-chilling tales told by old Nancy, Witch of Salem, and Satan, her wise black cat. They are waiting for you now.
It's time for another pretty bedtime tale. I see we got a couple of people here to listen. Where's that old cat of mine? Satan never misses a story. Here, kitty kitty. Meow. Hold on, folks. Satan! No, leave that dead mouse outside. Been hunting, has you? Lost track of time, did ya? Well, Satan, you see, our visitors are here already, so let's have them douse the lights and make it nice and gloomy. If they don't know already, it's the best way to hear our nice stories. They'll pull up to the fire and gaze into the embers, gaze into 'em deep, and soon we'll again be out on the cold waters of the North Pacific Ocean. Meow. Yes, Satan. The fire and embers don't bring to mind the ocean. First you're late and now you're interrupting me? Hush now, or I'll put a silencing spell on your whiskered puss. Let's get back to the cold Pacific Ocean, where a small ship sits upon the waters in the darkness. Out of the silent, misty night, there comes a sound. The voice in the night. The voice in the night.
It was a dark, starless night. We were becalmed in the northern Pacific. Our exact position I do not know, for the sun had been hidden during the course of a weary, breathless week by a thin haze, which had seemed to float above us, about the height of our mastheads, at whiles descending and shrouding the surrounding sea. With there being no wind, we had steadied the tiller, and I was the only man on deck. The crew, consisting of 2 men and a boy, were sleeping forward in the den, while Will, my friend, and the master of our little craft, was aft in his bunk on the port side of his little cabin. Suddenly, from out of the surrounding darkness, there came a hail.
"Schooner ahoy! Schooner ahoy!"
"Hello! What are you? What do you want?"
"You need not be afraid. I am only an old man."
"Why don't you come alongside then?"
I can't. It wouldn't be safe.
What do you mean? Why not safe? Where are you?" I listened for a moment, but there came no answer. With my heel I stamped upon the deck to waken Will. Grabbing the lighted lamp, I moved to the side and tried to illuminate the waters beyond the rail. "Hello there! What foolery is this? What's up, George?" "Come here, Will." "What is it?" "It seems an old man in a boat, but he's paddled off in the mist and darkness." "Boat ahoy!" From a long distance away there came back to us a faint reply, and my companion repeated his call. Presently, after a short period of silence, there grew, on our hearing, the muffled sound of oars, at which Will hailed again. "Boat ahoy!"
Put away the light.
"I'm damned if I will."
"Away, George! Put it away! Come nearer! Come alongside! There's nothing to be frightened of aboard here."
Promise that you will not show the light.
"What's to do with you, that you're so infernally afraid of the light?"
Because
"Because what?"
Shut up a minute, George. Let me handle him. See here, mister. This is pretty queer business. You coming upon us like this, right out in the middle of the blessed Pacific. How are we to know what sort of hanky-panky trick you're up to? You say there's only one of you. How are we to know? Unless we get a squint at you, eh? What's your objection to the light, anyway?"
I am sorry. Sorry. I would not have troubled you. Only I am hungry. And so is she.
"Stop! I don't want to drive you away. Come back. We'll keep the light hidden, if you don't like it. George, it's a damned queer rig, this, but I think there's nothing to be afraid of."
"No, I think the poor devil's been wrecked around here and gone crazy."
Shove that lamp back in the binnacle. Won't you come alongside now? I have had the lamp put back in the binnacle."
I cannot. I dare not come nearer. I dare not even pay you for the provisions.
"That's all right. You're welcome to as much grub as you can take."
You are very good. May God, who understands everything, reward you.
The lady? Is she?
I have left her behind upon the island.
"What island?"
I know not its name. I would to God.
Could we not send a boat for her?
No. My God, no. It was because of our want I ventured. Because of her agony tortured me.
I am a forgetful brute. Just a minute, whoever you are, and I will bring you up something at once. Can't you come alongside for them?
No, I dare not.
"Damn it! Will, get a box. We must float off the stuff to him in it." Using a boat hook, we quickly floated a wooden crate off in the direction of the voice in the night. Several moments later, a joyous cry alerted us our package had reached its recipient. The thanks he bestowed upon us for our gift of food made both Will and I sure we were the better for supplying it to him. We then listened to the strokes of his oars fade into the distance.
Pretty soon to depart.
I think somehow he'll come back. He must have been badly needing that food.
And the lady? It's the queerest thing I've ever tumbled across since I've been fishing.
Yes. And so the time slipped away, an hour, another, and still Will stayed with me, for the queer adventure had knocked all desire for sleep out of him. The third hour was 3 parts through, when we heard again the sound of oars across the silent ocean.
Listen! Listen!
He's coming, just as I thought.
Schooner, ahoy!
That you?
Yes, I left you suddenly. But there was great need.
The lady?
The lady is grateful now on earth. She will be more grateful soon in heaven.
What?
She and I have talked as we shared the result of God's tenderness and yours.
It was nothing.
I beg of you not to belittle your deed of Christian charity this night. Be sure that it has not escaped his notice. We have spoken together upon that which has befallen us. We had thought to go out without telling any of the terror which has come into our lives. She is with me in believing that tonight's happenings are under a special ruling, and that it is God's wish that we should tell to you all that we have suffered since.
Yes?
Since the sinking of the Albatross.
Ah, she left Newcastle for Frisco some 6 months ago, and hasn't been heard of since.
Yes, but some few degrees to the north of the line, she was caught in a terrible storm and dismasted. When the day came, it was found that she was leaking badly, and presently, falling to a calm, the sailors took to the boats, leaving a young lady, my fiancée, and myself upon the wreck. We were below, gathering together a few of our belongings. When they left, they were entirely callous through fear, and when we came up upon the deck, we saw them only as small shapes afar off upon the horizon. Yet we did not despair, but set to work and constructed a small raft. We gathered what water and ship's biscuit as we could, and then pushed off. For 4 days we drifted through this strange haze, until on the evening of the 4th day we could hear breakers at a distance. In the morning we came upon a lagoon, but hardly noticed, as close by loomed the hull of a large sailing vessel. With one accord we fell upon our knees and thanked God, for we thought that here was an end to our perils. We had much to learn. Our shouts drew no one to the deck. We quickly realized the ship was probably deserted for some reason. I climbed aboard from a rope which hung. It seemed to be covered in a filth and slime, as did the side of the ship itself. No man was aboard the ship. I threw down a rope ladder, and my sweetheart climbed aboard. Together, we explored the cabins and apartments in the after part of the ship, but nowhere was there any sign of life. Here and there within the cabins themselves, we came across odd patches of that queer fungus, but this, as my sweetheart said, could be cleansed away. We did find some food and drinkable water in the freshwater pump, though somewhat unpleasant to the taste. For several days we stayed aboard the ship, without attempting to get to shore. We busily engaged in making the place habitable, yet, even thus, early, we became aware that our lot was even less to be desired than might have been imagined, for though, as a first step, we scraped away the odd patches of growth that studded the floors and walls, yet they returned almost to their original size within the space of 24 hours, which not only discouraged us, but gave us a feeling of vague unease. On the 7th morning, my sweetheart woke to find a small patch of it growing on her pillow close to her face. At that, she came to me so soon as she could get her garments upon her. I was in the galley at the time, lighting a fire for breakfast.
Come here, John.
When I saw the thing upon her pillow, I shuddered. And then and there we agreed to go right out of the ship and see whether we could not fare to make ourselves more comfortable ashore. We gathered some meager possessions and necessities. The raft we brought was still alongside, but too clumsy to guide. We lowered down a small boat that hung across the stern and made our way to shore. Yet, as we drew near, it became clear that here the vile fungus grew. The vile fungus which had driven us from the ship was growing riot. It grew terribly. Fantastic mounds seemed to possess a quiet life of its own, and shivered in the breeze. Odd places it appeared as grotesque, stunted trees, seeming extraordinarily kinked and gnarled. At first it seemed to us that no portion of the land was not untouched by the hideous masses of lichenous growth. But we found we were mistaken. There was a stretch of beach, a white patch of what appeared to be fine sand. But when we landed, it was not sand. What it was, I do not know. All that I have observed is that upon it the fungus will not grow, while everywhere else, save where the sand-like earth wanders, oddly pathwise, amid the grey desolation of the lichen, there is nothing but the loathsome greyness. It was here on this beach, in tents constructed from sails I took from the ship, that me and my sweetheart, my love, lived. Upon the meager rations we had scavenged from the ship, and from what fish I could catch, few as they were. I soon found the lagoon held no fish. It was as if it was dead. Its proximity to the fungus and moss upon the land had poisoned it. So I ventured out into the ocean in the small rowboat and caught fish, but seldom. You might think we were quite unhappy in our situation, the predicament which we found ourselves in. Indeed, I may say, with much of happiness, for we were together. It was on the thumb of her right hand that the growth first showed. It was only a small circular spot, much like a little gray mole. My God, how the fear leapt to my heart when she showed me the place. We cleansed it between us, washing it with carbolic and water. In the morning of the following day, she showed her hand to me again. The gray, warty thing had returned. For a little while we looked at one another in silence. Then, still wordless, we started again to remove it. In the midst of our operation, she spoke suddenly.
What's that on the side of your face, dear? There, under the hair by your ear. A little to the front a bit.
Let us get your thumb done first, I said, and she submitted, only because she was afraid to touch me until it was cleansed. Once her thumb was disinfected, we turned to my face, and once finished we sat together and talked of many things, for there had come into our lives sudden, terrible thoughts. We were, all at once, afraid of something worse than death. We spoke of loading the boat with provisions and water and making our way out onto the sea. Yet we were helpless, for many causes. And the growth had attacked us already. We decided to stay. God would do with us what he will. What was his will? We would wait. A month, 2 months, 3 months passed, and the places grew somewhat, and there had come others. Yet we fought so strenuously with the fear that its headway was but slow, comparatively speaking. It seemed to me that our deaths were likely to come by hunger, and not by the growth of the thing which had seized upon our bodies. One morning, a little before midday, I came from the ocean, a failed fishing attempt. In the mouth of her tent I saw my sweetheart sitting, eating something. "What is it, my dear?" I called out as I leapt ashore. Yet, on hearing my voice, she seemed confused, and turning slyly threw something towards the edge of the little clearing. It fell short, and a vague suspicion arose within me. I walked across and inspected it. It was a piece of the gray fungus. I cried, my dear, but could say no more. Yet at the word she broke down and cried bitterly. As she calmed, she confessed. The preceding day she had tried it. She had been repulsed by it. And then, in the next moment, the thought came to her to eat it. And she liked it. She promised me she would not eat it again. But it was too late. The hunger was in her, and she had the taste for it. Later in the day, feeling strangely restless and much shaken with the thing which I discovered, I made my way along one of the twisted paths formed by the white sand-like substance which led among the fungoid growth. I was lost in thought. Suddenly, I was called to my senses by a queer, hoarse sound on my left. Turning quickly, I saw that there was movement among an extraordinarily shaped mass of fungus. It was swaying uneasily as though it possessed life of its own. Abruptly I stared. The thought came to me that the thing had a grotesque resemblance to the figure of a distorted human creature. Even as the fancy flashed into my brain, there was a slight, sickening noise of a tearing, and I saw that one of the branch-like arms was detaching itself from the surrounding gray masses and coming towards me. The head of the thing, a shapeless, gray ball, inclined in my direction. I stood, stupidly, and the vile arm brushed against my face. I gave out a frightened cry and ran back a few paces. There was a sweetish taste upon my lips where the thing had touched me. I licked them and was immediately filled with an inhuman desire. I turned and seized a mass of the fungus. Then more and more I was insatiable. In the midst of devouring, the remembrance of the morning's discovery swept into my mazed brain. It was sent by God. I dashed the fragment I held to the ground. Then utterly I retched, and feeling a dreadful guilt, I made my way back to the encampment. I confessed to my love, my weakness, yet admitted to mention the extraordinary thing which had gone before me. I desired to spare her the unnecessary terror, for I knew we would become like it. With great struggle, we have kept ourselves from consuming it again, but we are hardly able to look upon ourselves and recognize that we were once human. A week ago, we ate the last of the biscuit, and since that time, I have caught 3 fish. I was out here fishing tonight when your schooner drifted upon me out of the mist. I hailed you. You know the rest. And may God, out of his great heart, bless you for your goodness to a couple of poor outcast souls. God bless you, and goodbye.
Goodbye, goodbye. I glanced about me. I became aware that the dawn was upon us. The sun flung a stray beam across the hidden sea, pierced the mist dully, and lit up the receding boat with a gloomy fire. Indistinctly I saw something nodding between the oars. I thought of a sponge, a great, gray, nodding sponge. The oars continued to ply. They were gray, as was the boat, and my eyes searched a moment vainly for the conjunction of hand and oar. My gaze flashed back to the head. It nodded forward as the oars went back for the stroke. Then the oars were dipped. The boat shot out of the patch of light, and the thing went nodding into the mist.
Well, that's the end of the voice in the night. I think I'm going to stay off the oceans. Old Nancy's a witch, and y'all know witches prefer to fly. Meow. Satan's saying to come and visit again, so be sure to do that, and I'll have another story ready for you. Have a cheery night.
Meow. Tonight's story, The Voice in the Night, was written by William Hope Hodgson and adapted by Kevin Rimney. Our cast for this episode were Sheena McDonald and Kevin Rimney. The Witch's Bedtime Tale, based on The Witch's Tale by Alonzo Dean Cole. Copyright 2016, Kevin Rimney Productions.